Hey guys, I just want to show this rail trail. So this is the Farmington Rail Trail going between Farmington, New Hampshire, or Rochester, New Hampshire to Farmington. The trail is a former rail bed and it goes beyond the end of the trail, but it's still a public trail. So the Farmington, they have it listed, I believe it's about 6 miles long. And one end of it is right here in downtown Rochester, where it meets Wakefield Street. You'll see an orange gate here. In the times I've walked the trail, I see other people here and there, but not a ton of people. But it is actually a rail trail. Now, if you want to start from this end, that's fine. There's no parking here. Typically, where you see a gate, there's going to be places to park, but not here. But this runs behind the high school, and there is public parking here and there because people use the playgrounds and the basketball courts, and you have this trail right here, the Hanson Pines Trail. So if you go through this way, this runs behind the high school, and if you look on the ground here, you'll see in various places there are railroad ties still in the ground, a few of them, and I did see some with date nails in them, so just keep an eye out for that. And it does have it right here on Chestnut Hill Road. It'll actually say Farmington Recreational Trail. So there's other places to park too. You can park in here. So it follows along that road, Chestnut Hill, crosses here. I'll try not to make this too long of a video. And it runs under 16 right here. I have parked over here before. I didn't see anything saying I couldn't, but there are designated spots to park. So you just go under the bridge. Now, this is some kind of manufacturer here called Lidl. That runs right in front of there. You can walk that. That is part of the public trail. So don't worry about that. That's what that's for. So don't be nervous about, walking there. So you got a bridge right here because that's part of the Cochecho River. All right, and the trail you can see pretty clearly here. Now we're behind Holiday Inn Express right off Route 11 and their Mexican restaurant. This is not a bridge, it's just a sandy part of the trail, former railroad bed. This was basically created by beavers. There's a massive beaver dam down here. That's one cool thing to see. Also down here, on both sides, you'll see railroad ties with date nails in them. It's a little steep, so you have to be careful. And you also see sections of rail through here too. So this is where it crosses Little Falls Bridge Road. Now, there is parking here. There's an orange gate. I don't know if there's an orange gate on this side, but there is on this side. And there's plenty of room here for probably half a dozen cars. Just be careful when you park there because it's a little kind of like a step off from the road. I wish they would fill that in and level that up. Maybe they have, I don't know. But there is plenty of places to park here. I think this was the first place I had walked from to visit the rail trail because I didn't research it that much. I was just kind of jumping all over the place, going from location to location, rather than walking it from end to end. But this is a pretty decent trail. I see a lot of people on this section of the trail walking between like the high school and here. So it's a pretty nice section, and there are things to see. So it continues across Little Falls Bridge Road. And you will see various places where you can park. I don't think this would be one of them because this is where you walk under this road. His trail goes under this road right here. There's a little tunnel. There are places to park here and there. There's orange gates here and there. Well, you can see this right here. This is parking for the trail. So don't worry about that. Normally, again, when you see orange gates, there's going to be places to park because it is an actual trail. And then you'll see it cross through this road right here. Again, look on the ground. You'll see railroad ties here and there in some of these crossings. And also, look around this time of year. If you are driving along Route 11 and you look into the woods here, you will see a couple of culverts. One of them is a stone arch culvert that's pretty visible from the road. There's actually a cemetery in there too. And one of the culverts, the one that has 1849 on it, is right in this area somewhere here. So you'll see it. I saw it from the actual trail, but then you have to walk down a pretty steep embankment to get to it. But that's fine. Because I was walking the trail at the time, so I wanted to see everything from the trail. Now this right here is also a designated spot for the trail. There's plenty of places over here to park. Now there's trucks that go in and out of here for this, this aggregate, the sand pit, the sand and gravel pit. But that's okay, you just don't park in the middle of the road. There's plenty of places along here that you can park. And this is where the tracks would have crossed Route 11, Places Crossing right here. So this runs pretty close to the road right here. And you can actually see the trail. This is the trail. This is Route 11. So it's right there. So it might get a little noisy there. That's okay. And then you have right here. There's another business up here, but you can cross the road right here. You can see once you're here. I believe this is one of the spots where you will see railroad ties on the road. So keep an eye on that. There's always evidence, right? There's always evidence of the railroad somewhere. Okay, so you go through here. It's hard to see the trail right here. So now this part of the trail, it kind of merges with Route 11. It runs right along the edge of it. And you'll see this Dana's collision. Okay, this is the section of the trail. I'll show you. Right in here, there's going to be a bridge. There's a little sort of a river, but it's really only a river when it rains, and there's melting snow. It's pretty dry in the summer. But right around this area somewhere, and I can't see it from here, it's hard to see. It might be right in here actually. But there's a little trail that goes off of the rail trail, okay? Really short. As soon as you step onto that, and it's very easy to see, you can see where trees were cut down and stuff. You look into there and you'll pretty much walk into a old stone foundation, like a granite foundation. I was told from Farmington Historical Society it was a mill, but I don't know what kind of mill. Now Farmington at one time was known for shoe mills. It could have been that, but it was obviously right along the track, so there was, easy access there, deliveries, loading, unloading, whatever. Could have been a sawmill, could have been a shoe mill, I have no idea. But from that stone foundation, just look up and you'll see a stone dam right in front of you. Now I'm guessing that dam was built to power that mill, although it is kind of offset from the building, where the building would have been. So I'm not exactly sure how that would have worked. And of course, that dam is holding a small pond, maybe at its deepest point when it's full of water. But you can see when it's dried up, it wasn't very deep, maybe a few feet at the most. The time to visit that would be, during the melting season. So not when there's a ton of snow on the ground, when most of it has melted, but a lot of that, the dam is holding back a lot of that water from the melting snow coming down from the mountain. When it's clear to walk, maybe toward the end of March, I would say, middle to end of March, because that's when you're going to see water actually flowing over that dam. And I was told that was probably built sometime in the 1700s. I don't know, but it's a pretty awesome sight to see a dam, literally a stone dam, with water flowing over it. And if you walk around, there's a trail that goes all along the edge of the dam, and you can stand on top of it and watch. You can see the pond and everything, because there's a trail that goes up into the woods there. Pretty cool to see. And this is where you continue on. So between Meeting Hill House Road and that dam and foundation is I think it's less than a mile. It's very obvious to see, especially before the leaves grow in and everything. So Meeting House Hill Road is another crossing. There is parking here. Okay, there's Orange Gate right here. and you'll see there's parking spaces here for, I mean, you can probably fit half a dozen cars or more right there. Although you rarely see that many there at the same time. And there's a lot to see here. You know, pay attention. There's a lot of railroad ties on the ground, and you will see date nails. I've seen plenty of date nails in these ties, mostly from anywhere from the 20s to the 40s. An interesting thing about this supposedly is the site of a 1928 circus train wreck. Now, at that time, it wasn't the Cochecho. It was the Boston and Maine Railroad. So apparently this train was leaving Lakeport, New Hampshire, which is basically Laconia. And it was on its way back to, I think it was going to, geez, I can't remember now. It wasn't Boston, but it was somewhere in Massachusetts. And somewhere it said Meeting House Hill Road crossing, where it said where the Cochecho, which it wasn't the Cochecho at the time, but it said where that met on Meeting House Hill Road. So I'm guessing this is where the train wreck was. There's some old, literally broken rails up here. I don't know if that had anything to do with that, because rails were changed, you know, at different times for different reasons. But I mean, a train wreck would almost make that pretty obvious. So there's not going to be a lot of remnants there. This looks different because when you look at old pictures from that wreck, if you just research it, just look up 1928 circus train wreck, Farmington, New Hampshire. It's not well known because Farmington, New Hampshire has never been well known. If it happened in Boston or something, it would be well known. But here it wasn't. But there's a lot of sand pits here. And what you can see from the pictures is people standing on the sides here and all sand, which is basically, you see trees here now. But if you just look at the landscape in the area, that's what this is. It's still like all sand around this area. So I think the wreck happened on this side, not on this side, because judging by the pictures, this is elevated and this is where people were standing looking down at the wreck. Pretty horrific wreck, actually. But that's supposed to be the site of where that happened. And the broken rails may or may not be remnants of that. That's a long time ago. A lot of that stuff would have been hauled away a long time ago. So this is technically where they will say the Farmington Rail Trail ends, Davidson. And you can still see there's rails in the road right here. Davidson, I believe at one time was a rubber plant or something like that. Okay, so they would have been other pieces of, you know, like spurs going in and out of here somewhere, I don't know. But there is a platform here along the trail. You'll see right here, actually. There's a concrete platform. You'll be walking right along that. So just because it says the rail trail ends here doesn't mean you can't walk. You can. These are public trails, mainly used by snowmobilers. So if you just want to walk to this point and just stay on the rail trail, fine. If you want to walk through this way, you can do that too. I've walked the whole thing. And you can see the trail here. So you can go through here. Pretty cool, actually. Now this will dip down. So I don't know how that would have worked for the railroad at the time. If I had to guess, I don't know why all this is so much steeper here. Like this is all kind of dug out. It's possible, I'm guessing this wasn't here at the time, this particular building, and the train just ran right through here. That would make sense to me. But anyway, this is at the corner of the crossing of Paulson. Okay, so you can park here too. It's still part of the trail, not the rail trail, but a recreational trail. Okay. So it continues. Now I'll zoom out so you can kind of see it cut through the trees here. Kind of, not really. This is where there's a dirt road right here. This is pretty much where the trail is going to end for you. This public trail, okay? Because you're then on public property. You don't want to be walking through someone's yard, right? So you're going to have to, from here, you're going to have to drive to a point I'll show you and to continue, okay? Because you can't walk through here. You want to be walking through people's yards, you know? And also at some point, the train crosses the road anyway. Now, it's hard to tell because everything changes, landscape changes, houses, businesses, whatever. So I don't know exactly where the tracks went. They were either on Route 11 or they were just out over here somewhere. Because I know at one time the track did go into Farmington down here. I just don't know where, and I don't know how far. All right. So this is River Road. Now, River Road is interesting because this is where the tracks re-entered right here. The tracks came back across somewhere over here. And again, I don't know exactly where. And came in through here. This was the right-of-way right here, okay? This is a dirt road. River Road, what you want to look out for, okay? Drive down this road. There's just a few houses on your right. Once you get past the last house, just pull over here, okay? Now, you don't want to do this early in the spring because the river, it literally will be a mad river. But in the summer, it's usually pretty dry. You know, there's not much to, you know, just a trickle of water there. But if you walk out into the river, because this is how you have to do it, onto the riverbed on the rocks and look back this way toward Route 11, you will see a railroad bridge, a huge concrete arched railroad bridge. Now, I think that bridge, yeah, because this is where the train would have entered right here. So that bridge would be angled this way because you can see these trees perfectly cut out, and there's a reason for that. So that bridge would be angled right in here somewhere. But it's not easy, I'm telling you. I don't care. It's easier when there's no foliage, but it's still not easy to see. I stared right at it for probably 5 minutes before my eyes focused and said, oh my God, there's the bridge. I was looking right at it. It's unbelievable. So that you have to stop, park, and look at that bridge. You can't continue through here, and I'm going to show you why. You could probably ask this business here, Cameron's, if you can get permission to walk through here. I didn't do that because once you get to the next road, now you can kind of see the curvature here, where the train would have come through here, right here to the next road. The problem with this cutout right here, where this was a right-of-way, it's sort of almost like a valley, okay? And it's always wet. Always. I've been up there different times a year. There's always water in there. And I don't think there's any tracks left in there, and I wouldn't be able to see them anyway. So that's why, even if you got permission, I wouldn't walk through there anyway. And I don't think you're supposed to walk in here. I believe this is posted. Even though there is a partial trail going through here, there's an orange gate on either side. It's over here you want to stay away from. But here's the cool thing. So you can see this was the train, the railroad right away right here. You can see that perfect cut. Now, this is all kind of closed up more and it widens out right here clearly, right? Well, this fooled me at first, which is not hard to do. So there is a gate right about here, I believe is the gate. All right, we can walk either way. When you're first walking through this gate, you're like, this doesn't look like a right-of-way. Well, that's because it's not, okay? When you enter that gate, you eventually merge into the actual right-of-way. And the first time I walked down here, I was looking to my right, and I was like seeing water. And I just figured, oh, it's some kind of a brook or river, but the water wasn't running, right? But I didn't really think about it at first. Well, that is the actual right-of-way. And another cool thing, this train, now you can't see from here, this is elevated. This is pretty high right here on Ridge Road. You're going uphill quite a bit. The train at the time ran underneath Ridge Road. So it wasn't a tunnel, but there was a bridge here crossing the actual tracks. And that's where the Cochecho and eventually the B&M cross Ridge Road right here. And the cool thing is, when you park at the gate and then just walk back, you'll see that canal, like I call it a canal now because it's always full of water, perfectly cut out, perfectly straight. Now on this side, you'll see huge rocks on both sides. And that's where the bridge would connect right there. So there was a crossing on Ridge Road, and there was a wooden bridge there at one time, but you can clearly see when you're standing here how it was just filled in. There's like all kinds of big boulders and dirt and all kinds of stuff. It still today looks like it was just filled in. Just all kinds of crap they used to fill that cutout in. But if you look back, you'll see it perfectly straight, perfectly. I'll show you pictures of it. I'll put it on my post later. I believe I have a picture of one or the other, either the Cochecho or the Boston, Maine, someone taking a picture from the bridge, which I was told from someone that I think would know that that's what that was, because it did have Ridge written on it, I guess. But anyway, again, this isn't part of the trail. This is part of the right-of-way. But once you park on Ridge Road, you go through the gate, and then you'll be back on the rail bed. Now, you can't see it from here. You'll be running parallel to Route 11, but this gets quite elevated here. You're going to be way above Route 11 at this point. And there are signs here and there, stay on the trail, abide by those, But this is primarily used by snowmobilers, mountain bikes. Again, it's not technically part of the rail trail, but it is a public trail. Just try to respect the signage. And there's some pretty well-known places here, the veterinary hospital. Now, if you go here and just pull in here and look toward the trail, you'll see what I mean, how elevated it is. It's crazy how high it is above the road. Because there's certain points where you'll hear the Route 11 traffic, and then there's certain points when you get into here where you can't. And this is what makes it really creepy. This is really grown in pretty well here. So it's there's a big rock cutout here from where the train went through. It gets pretty dark in there, even on a nice sunny day. But, it's probably my favorite stretch of this trail. And it's about 3 miles, so it's very interesting. This is where I ended it, right here, because from this point on Quaker Road, there's snowmobile trails here, but I don't believe those snowmobile trails had anything to do with the railroad. I see this cutout here. Okay, I think the train, because of the angle of where this comes out across Quaker, I think the train kind of went this way. And then there was points between New Durham and Alton where the train was mostly on what is Route 11 today and went right into Alton. I believe. I know there were some people told me about some, because here's another road, Davis Crossing. So obviously there was a crossing there, right? But I think it was either on Route 11 or just hugged it, because there's certain places over here where I'm like, the tracks couldn't have been there. There's like huge boulders and rocks and like little valleys, and it's wetlands. I'm like, there's no way that could have happened. And farther up, approaching Alton, it's all wetlands. Merry Meeting Marsh is on one side, so it wouldn't have been there either. So I didn't really look at the old maps. I was just following the trail. But anyway, eventually you'll end on Quaker Road if you want to walk the entire trail. Now, if you go farther up to Alton, which you're going to have to drive up because there's no more actual trail. There's other snowmobile trails around here and there. But, it's not the same trail that you've been walking. I mean, the rail bed eventually will pick up in Alton Bay. So there's Alton. And on this side somewhere, this is 28. This is where it enters again. There's a rail trail going into the center of Alton. It's the same trail. That's where the train would have entered. But anyway, Farmington Rail Trail between Wakefield Street and Rochester to Davidson and Farmington. I think that's considered Farmington at that point. And then it continues from there to Quaker, but it's not the rail trail, but it is a public trail. So I just wanted you all to kind of see that. And this, honestly, like I said, between Ridge Road and Quaker, I believe it's 3 miles. It might be a little more. my favorite stretch. If you do mountain biking, it's an awesome stretch to ride there. It is nice and flat. You don't have to worry about that. There are some things to see there. I didn't see any mile markers. I did see some granite stones. I did see in the rock cutout some pretty square edges right there. Now those might be because of where the rail was sitting. There might be some railroad ties buried there. I'm not sure, but it's almost perfectly square all the way along the inside of that. So there's not much as far as remnants of the railroad there, but it is a nice stretch. And again, it is a little creepy because where the rock cutout is, like I said, you can see it's pretty open there, but then all of a sudden it's not. It gets pretty dark in there, especially right here. So the last stretch of this trail, even if it's the middle of the day and it's sunny, it gets pretty dark in there. It's very thick woods. So again, not much as far as remnants of the railroad, but it is pretty interesting to see the Ridge Road crossing, the railroad bridge on the Mad River, which mostly is not mad. It's only when there's runoff and rain and stuff like that. But in the middle of the summer, it's pretty dry. So if you just walk out into the river and look that way, you'll see the bridge. You'll be looking right at it. But you might not know you're looking at it right away. So anyway, I just wanted to show that to you. For anyone in the area who didn't know, even though it's a short rail trail, there is a lot to see. And it is a very interesting trail. I don't know if you can walk the full 6 miles in one day. You could definitely ride it on a mountain bike, no problem. But again, there's certain points, if you want to continue from the designated rail trail onto the snowmobile trails, which is the rail bed, you're going to have to drive and park to different places to do that. But it's still pretty fun. I did see the whole thing, did it, different times. I didn't do it all at once, but very, very cool trail. And there's a lot of places between here and again Davidson. You can still see the tracks. One thing I'll say about this section, if you look on YouTube and you just research Boston and Maine Railroad, Farmington, New Hampshire, somebody has a video of 1989, from 1989, of a train actually coming through here. So I don't know what year these tracks were picked up. I would guess sometime in the early to mid 90s. And I also could not find out what year it was actually technically called a rail trail. So nobody could tell me. I called Farmington, I called Rochester. Nobody seemed to know what year. Maybe they didn't know what I was really asking them, but yeah, there's still tracks here. There's still some railroad ties here, but you can see that train coming through here. It was probably one of its last runs, right? Maybe going to, I don't know where they were going, but it was going in this direction. And you can actually see it crossing the road back here, where that place is crossing I showed you. So it's pretty cool to see. One of the last, that may have been one of the last, could have been the last time a train, these tracks I've seen a train. But there are things to see. I wouldn't go this time of year because of snow and everything, but in the spring, kind of before all the foliage goes in, you'll see some stuff here. You'll see whistle posts. You'll see a couple mile markers, not many. I think I really only saw one on the whole trail. You will see those pass-throughs, or culverts, I call them, but they were pass-throughs for like cattle and stuff like that at one time. The stone dam, the stone foundation. There are a lot of things to see. So if you look around, you will see remnants of the railroad here and there. All right, this is a long video. I can't believe I made it because I always lose my voice. But I just wanted to show you end to end of the rail trail and beyond to that point in, I think that's still Farmington and New Durham, but to Farmington itself. All right, that was a look at the former Cochecho Railroad, the Farmington Rail Trail, and the rail bed beyond that point to Quaker Road. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Take care.